Welcome to the last lecture recording in which I intend to connect the beginning of the course and the end of the course. Firstly, recall a concept of a moral agent that was presented early in the semester. A moral agent is a decision maker who needs to think about right and wrong. It could be you personally, or it could be you making decisions on behalf of a business. In this Chapter 12 recording, I provide a very high-level summary of key concepts in the text, and I'll give you some of my views on ethical self-regulation for sustainability. Over 2,000 years ago, Greek philosophers like Aristotle wondered about how people should treat each other and suggested that everyone should be free to pursue their own idea of a good life as long as that person's choice did not interfere with someone else's pursuit of the good life. The maxim, "Don't cause unjustified harm," was probably among the first statements of Western moral philosophy. Self-regulation justifies freedom to choose. A moral agent is someone who has the capacity to intentionally take action that may cause harm to another. In contrast, a subject of moral worth is any being or natural system that is vulnerable to be harmed. In my draft paper on the learning management system, I argue that future generations and natural resources like water and air are all subjects of moral worth as vulnerable to harms caused by those who have power over them. The ethical obligation of moral agents is to use their power with care and never intentionally cause unjustified harm. In Lesson 1 recording, you heard me explain that business corporations are legal persons created by our law. Each is a separate artificial person created by law with its own rights and obligations, and thus with its own ethical decisions about how to interact with the world. Real people, like you and me, take on the role of managers as agents to make decisions on behalf of the business corporation. Managers are moral agents who choose what the business will be. In the course text, each chapter presented concepts regarding globalization, sustainability, stakeholders, corporate citizenship, and so on. How does it all fit together? Chapter 1 introduced business ethics as the idea of choosing between right and wrong actions, and usually ethics starts where the law ends. One of the things that I hope you learned in this course is the idea that making optimal or ethical business decisions means you need to carefully understand the implications for all stakeholders. Considering stakeholders is best practice. With respect to globalization, stakeholders might be located all around the world with different cultures and different laws. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals suggest all persons, including business corporations, have responsibility for major global challenges. A business corporation is a moral agent in the sense that it can make decisions and take actions using its power and resources to affect others. Thus, business corporations need to be good corporate citizens. Corporate managers making decisions on behalf of business corporations need to consider stakeholders in assessing whether a decision or action is right or wrong. That's where the various normative ethical theories are applied. Rarely do any of these theories provide a clear-cut and unambiguous and non-controversial answer. Often, the different normative theories help you rationalize or think your way through those decisions to enable you to justify your choice through discourse with stakeholders and deliberation after due consideration of stakeholder interests. I observe a growing trend towards due process standards of various kinds that help guide decision-making for business. Once you complete some thoughtful analysis of stakeholder interest, the challenging task that you've now experienced in your group work is to appropriately balance competing stakeholder expectations and claims. During this analysis, issues often arise like accountability, good citizenship, transparency, requiring the use of empathy, imagination, and good judgment. In my draft paper, I argue that future generations are legitimate stakeholders who may either benefit from or be harmed by the decision or actions that a business might take. Future generations are voiceless because they do not influence the market economy or otherwise influence current decisions. Similarly, the environment cannot speak in the ordinary sense of using language and articulating ideas and concepts. Business corporations do not actually exist except as a legal concept. They are the creation of our laws to serve society. In my draft paper, I refer to a famous movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, where some view the computer system HAL 9000 as having developed its own model of self and its own view of self-interest based on its mission. Similarly, business corporations, by being legally created, have a self-interest. And decisions about how to define that self-interest and serve that self-interest for the business corporation are made by real people like me and you. Real people, the managers, like officers and directors, animate the business corporation as moral agents, as I've described earlier in this recording. In my opinion, future generations need to be considered as stakeholders when making business decisions and when organizing society. I do not suggest a moral obligation to reach any particular outcome, but rather, I suggest merely a process obligation to at least consider the views articulated on behalf of sustainability of the environment and on behalf of future generations as stakeholders. This brings us back to the First Nations land acknowledgement in the course outline. Reflection on it can help us realize our stewardship obligations owed to generations past and future to care for our earth. What do I mean by realize stewardship obligations? By realize, I mean two senses of the word. First, become fully aware of our stewardship obligations, in other words, clearly understanding our stewardship obligations, and secondly, cause such stewardship to happen through our choice about actions that impact others. In my opinion, future generations are stakeholders owed due consideration.